My name's Fergus. I'm in the band Kingswood, and we are going on a 10-year anniversary tour of our debut album, Wars, Microscopic Warg,
Microscopic morgue.
Microscopic Morgue. It's a morgue center for ants, and we're going on tour in August, and we're quite thrilled about it. To be honest, it's been a very nostalgic time organizing all this, and yeah, it's great. We're very excited.
Very nice. Thanks for joining us today, Fergus.
No problem, Kris.
So, as you say, Kingswood are off on the Microscopic Wars 10-year anniversary, starting in Melbourne on August the 2nd and going through Gold Coast, Brisbane, Sydney, Newcastle, Adelaide, and Bunbury. And then you finish in Perth on August the 18th, mate. So what sort of delights have you got in store for us, mate? I know it's a 10-year anniversary, so you got to have something special.
No, look, we do. We've got a few special guests for sure that are going to come up and join us on stage. We're taking a great band called the Delta Rigs with us for most of the tour, and over in WA, we're going to have Death by Denim come with us. But we were talking. Alex and I were. He said to me yesterday when we were sort of planning out who's going to play what and what the part's going to be, because we're going to relearn a lot of it. I've got to relearn how to play piano, which I never did in the first place. But but he said, we're going to give them, because we're so much more experienced, we're better singers, we're better performers, better players. He said we're going to give the fans that love that album the best version of those songs that they've ever heard. Far better than when we played them back in the day.
Hell yeah!
So it's exciting.
It sounds like it's a pretty big tour, mate, but by your standards, it's only a walk in the park, isn't it?
No, this is leave the kettle boiling and pop out for a few shows and come back and have a cup of tea. That's what this tour is. But look, it's good. It's great. When we do those big, mega long bus tours, we play smaller rooms and go sort of town to town. This is getting back into some big rooms, and just isolating in the city. So that'll be fun. That's a type of touring that we also really enjoy. We don't mind at all playing to a big room as much as we do love sort of going town to town on our big bus. The bus will do the East Coast tour though.
Now I'm assuming you're going to be playing the whole album front to back as part of the anniversary. Yeah,
we are. We're honouring our frog stompers as you can understand. There's a lot of people that love that album. We are a band that has changed our sound a lot and diversified, and we don't shy away from that. We're proud of that, and so we do understand that there's fans that love that first album and then went, they went a bit this or they went a bit this, and that's fine. We love those people as much. But yeah, we're certainly going to play era appropriate heavy rock and roll. So there's the first album in totality. We're not going to play Golden or Big City. They're too soft. We're going to play, all the. We've been asking fans what else they want to hear, and it's all like Yeah Go Die, Medusa, Snake Pit, all the really heavy stuff. So I'm actually going to go see Carnival tonight to get some inspiration.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is it difficult at all to play an album front to back, bro? Like when you made it, I can't imagine you sort of ever had it in mind that you'd have to be play the whole thing.
I put a lot of thought into track order on albums. Al doesn't really seem to mind as much, but so generally I'll get the track order and then he'll come in and sort of tinker and that kind of thing. But I actually love track order. I think it's important, and the same thing goes for set lists. And I don't think they differ too much. Generally, I think that they can be, that they can reflect each other pretty easily. So I think the way that an album is on a record is generally a pretty good set to play it live as well. So we are going to do it in order. Some these are from front to back, and then I think the album flows really well, and I think it'll flow really well live as well.
Oh, now you probably would have had to learn quite a few of these songs all over again now, bro. So are they still resonating with you as much now as what they did when you first wrote them?
Yeah, they are. Like it's funny. There's one in particular that I've been learning, The Storm, and it kind of it was quite an emotional song for me at the time. It was sort of about my breakup at that time, and it all sort of comes rushing back, and it's like I'm listening to the song and it's speaking to me as if I'm like a fan of the song, and it meant something to me at one point in my life, and then like you revisit it and you go, oh, I remember this and I remember that. So it's kind of like we're so detached from the songs that they're not really ours, that they're sort of a song, an album that meant something to you at a time in your life. So yeah, going back and learning them has been pretty interesting. But yeah, I think they definitely still mean a lot to us, and we're still proud of them. There's nothing that we're like, there's a couple where we're like, wish we did this a bit differently, but you can't think too much on that.
Not from 10 years ago, anyway.
No.
Now, Microscopic Wars was your debut album made after a string of EPs. So what was your thought process going into the writing and recording of that record?
Oh, to be the biggest band in the world.
Cool.
We were so full of energy, and I mean we still are, but yeah, we tracked down Vance Powell because we loved Jack White's Blunderbuss record, and we wanted our record to sort of sound like that, and we went to Nashville and just dived headfirst and went to Blackbird Studios, where a studio that we loved. Albums like Only by the Night by Kings of Leon was done there. So we were kind of, fanboys to rock and roll, and being like, we want this producer and we want this, this studio. And I think it's great that we did that. I think that's really, and being there and working with those people inspires you a lot. I think you can make great music without doing that.
Yeah.
But that's what we wanted to do. And look, we met Eddie Spear, who was the engineer on that record, and he's sort of now our fifth Beatle. He's done every record worked on every record with us since. And we keep going back to Nashville and have great connections there. It's a bit of a second home for us. So it was a great trip, but yeah, I mean, going over there and recording that album was a crazy time. We were 10 years younger, and we just went to, it was all new. And this was when we went at a time in Nashville where being an Australian was interesting.
Interesting.
You'd be in bars and people would come up and be like, oh my God, you're, that's South. Oh my God, you're Aussie, and like this. And you'd be like, oh yeah, God bless you. That's not, and people would lose it. And now no one gives it, no one cares at all. But back then, yeah, it was a commodity to be an Australian.
Now, you mentioned going over to Nashville to record with Vance, mate. So looking back now, like especially as a influential band, I guess, so young in your career, like what overall effect did that have on the album by making that choice to go over there?
Oh, massively. I mean, we'd written a lot of the songs. One thing we knew when we spoke with Vance about going over and recording with him is that he didn't want to waste time writing, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, he wanted to come in because ideally we wanted to do it like Blunderbuss, which is all live to tape. Which is, he said, look, if you're going to do that, there's a lot of bands here that want to do that, and I tell them no because they're not good enough. You've got to be, the best musicians in the world to do that, which we weren't. So some of it was, but then we were doing a lot of overdubs and things like that. But it certainly helped us. We learned so much about recording, about writing, and about musicianship and how important it was. So it was an amazing experience to be put in the best studio in the world with one of the best producers and go through that process is invaluable, teachings that we've just gone onwards and upwards from there.
Yeah, cool. So you followed that up with After Hours Close to Dawn, mate. So was it tempting in a way to sort of just rehash what was essentially a successful formula with Microscopic Wars?
Yeah, it's an interesting one how we shifted so much. Like the head of the label at the time thought we were playing a prank on him when we played him some songs because it was so different. No, I think we were always, I don't know. It was I think even the first album was kind of, there wasn't really anything else like that being made in Australia. And it was kind of it was a fight to get it over. Yeah, so it wasn't so much being rebellious. I think it was just that we didn't really want to fit into what everyone else was doing. We were influenced by so many different bands and sound. Yeah, it wasn't so much a thing of fighting any kind of establishment. It was just that we were very open to rolling with whatever influences we had. And we've always done that, whatever we're into, whatever is inspiring us, whether it's environmental or a piece of music or an album, or culturally where you are, we go to New York, we don't make that same record. So everything sort of just making the album that we want to make. We're always very open to whatever influences are around us and what's going to shape the kind of music that we're into and what we want to make. We don't really look back and have never thought that we should remake the same record or stay in the same genre. I know that there's bands that do that, and maybe that's naturally their thing, and that's fine. And there's the AC/DC model of just, rinse and repeat. But yeah, we're certainly not that band.
Yeah, cool. So in the 10 years since Microscopic Wars came out, bro, like, it's fair to say you guys have peaked. You've done really well, man. Like, you've traveled the world. People love you everywhere. You've made different albums every time you put something out. Like, you've gone to the beat of your own drum, which is refreshing in this day and age. But what do you say that you've learned about yourself and your music in that 10-year period since Microscopic Wars?
I think I think the music that we put out is kind of like a diary for Al and I. Every song we write, does come from somewhere true and honest. Even on the we made in COVID, we made a very bluegrassy kind of record and it was all written in it's called The Tale of GC Towns, and it's all written through the eyes of this character that we created. Because there was nothing going on, there was no stories that we could tell, and so we decided to sort of create this character and then put our feelings and thoughts and ideas through this guy. But so even that record, everything's comes from within us. So it's we've grown as musicians and as friends, and we've been through so much. I think one thing we've learned is that we care less now about things that are not important, and I think that's just a part of growing up. Some things you get so worked up about. I had this great learning moment, and we had some technical issues, and by about 10 or 15 minutes, and the sound in our ears was wrong, and we had to go to like just wedges at the front of the stage, and it was live to Triple J, and it was a big, I was furious, right? And so I went on stage and we played like for 35 minutes, and I hated every second of it. Big crowd out there in the main amphitheater of Splendor of the Grass. Finished the gig, went off into the crowd, and was just sort of angry and pissed off at whoever's fault it was, and we lost this opportunity. And then I realized a bit later, it might have even been the next day, you just played a gig that not many people get to play. You just played main stage Splendor of the Grass for the second time, and you hated every second of it. Like, who do you think you are? And I kind of, had to look myself in the mirror and be like, that's crazy. Like, things go wrong, mistakes happen, and who cares if we lose a couple of songs? The crowd still, wants to party. So yeah, I learned that, and I kind of told everyone that I'd, realized that and hoped that they did the same. And then we were lucky enough to play Splendor again and went back in 2017, and we sort of celebrated it. And I think it's important to celebrate things because we're not sports people. You don't hold up a trophy at the end of the year. So when you get a win and when you put a great tour on sale, or when you have great moments, it's important to sort of sit back and celebrate them. It's been great. We've been talking to the original members of the band, and they're gonna, there's a few surprises in store with those guys, and we're all going to get together and celebrate 10 years since the album's done. So yeah, it's been a wild ride, but it's certainly not over for us, that's for sure.
Hell no, brother. You still got your baby teeth, my friend.
That's right.
All right, Fergus. Well, thanks for your time, bro. Pleasure as always. The tour kicks off in Melbourne on August the 2nd. Brisbane's about the third stop in, mate, so I'll come down and have a beer.
Yeah, I'd love to see you. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Can't wait to see everyone there.